Hello and welcome to the lecture series on Railways, Harbour, Tunnelling and Airport for the subject code 18CV645, Module 1, Session 3, Rails. In this session, we are going to discuss about the rails, functions of rails, requirements of rails, types, selection of rails and comparison of different rails and length of rails for the selection. Lastly, the references. Moving on to the definition of a rails. So, in the previous session, I had shown you that is with the component of the permanent way. So, the first one is going to be the rails. So, rails are the steel girder which are having high carbon content. So, it will withstand wear and tear and it carries the axial load of the locomotive, the wagon or the bogies. So, these steel structures which are placed over the sleepers are going to be having high carbon content. So, usually it is going to withstand wear and tear which is caused by the moving wheel. Then it carries the axial load and it transmits to the subgrade. So, this is going to be called as an rail. So, what are the functions of rail? So, rail will provide a hard and smooth surface and unchanging surface for the passage of heavy wheel load with a minimum friction. So, this friction is in between the steel rail and the steel wheels of the locomotive or the wagons or the bogies. The rails will bear the stresses which are developed due to heavy vertical load and the lateral and braking forces and also the thermal stresses. It means, so rails will bear the stress which is going to be axially provide axial load which is produced by the locomotive or the wagon or the bogies and also the braking forces which is applied and the thermal stresses it is induced in the members. Next, the rail material which is going to be such that it is going to be having a minimum wear and tear. It can be easily replaced. So, next one, the rail is going to transmit the loads to the sleeper and consequently to reduce the pressure on the ballast and the formation. Next is the requirement of rail. So, as we know the functions of a rail, so it should possess some qualities with respect to the rail which is going to survive for its function. So, to begin with, the rails are going to be a proper composition. So, that is with a carbon content and should be manufactured by using the open arc method or the duplex process. It is with respect to manufacturing. So, first requirement, the vertical stiffness should be so high, it should be enough to transmit the load to the several sleeper which is placed underneath. The height of the rail should be so that it should be adequate for the passage of the wheels and wheel flanges. Rail should be capable of withstanding the lateral forces. A large width head in the foot should be endowed to have the rail for the high lateral stiffnesses. Moving on to the next one, the head must be sufficiently deep which allows for the adequate margin over the vertical wear. The wearing should be very much hard. So, that is the top surface should be harder one. Coming to the web section, the web should be sufficient thick to bear the load coming on it and should provide adequate flexural rigidity in the horizontal plane. So, that is in the web section you should have the flexural rigidity, and next the foot should be wide enough so that the rails are stable against the overturning. So, these are the requirements of the rail. Next one, the same thing. So, bottom of the head and top of the rail foot should be so shaped, it should be enabled to have the fish plate to transmit efficiently the vertical loads from the head to the foot wherever the rail joints are going to be provided. So, that is in the web section if you are going to be provided fish plates. So, it should transmit efficiently the upcoming vertical loads. A relative distribution of a material in a head, web and foot, it should be well balanced. Next is the center of gravity of the rail section must lie approximately at the middle height so that the maximum tensile and compressive stresses are equal. That is, the neutral axis should lie within the web portion. So, the fillet radii must be large to reduce the concentration of the stresses. That is, at the web portion or the junction of a head or a footing, the fillet radii should be larger to reduce the concentration of a stresses. The tensile strength of a rail piece should not be less than 72 kg per mm square. The rail specimen should withstand the blow of a falling weight test, so which is as for the fracture has been concerned, that is due to repeated wheel loading or the battering effect. So, to do simulate that one, Indian Rail standards have specified the blow falling weight test. So, it should possess minimum strength with respect to number of blows. So, these are all the requirement for the rails has been concerned. So, moving on to the types of a rail, we are going to be having 3 types. So, first one is going to be called as double headed. So, it is going to be called as a double headed because so the both header and footer. So, this header section and footer section are going to be same dimension, hence it is called double headed. So, we can make it this one as a head or we can make this one as a head. So, that is going to be called as double headed. So, as we know that it is going to be upper flange and a lower flange, and this section is going to be called as an web section. Similarly, next type is going to be called as a bullhead. So, just see the geometric difference between the double headed. So, it is a symmetrical one, it is also symmetrical, but the thing is the top flange is going to be a little bit having a depth than compared to the footer one. So, next one is going to be the flat footed rail. So, in this flat footed rail, as the name indicates, the foot is going to be little bit wider as compared to the head of a rail. So, these are going to be commonly used types of a rail. So, just I will repeat. So, one is a double headed. So, this is because both head are having the same dimension. So, next one is a bull headed. So, this one is going to be called as a bull headed, and the third category is going to be the flat footed. That is, the foot is going to be little bit wider dimension as compared to the header. So, moving on to the double headed rail. So, this is the first rail we are used as a double headed. So, most of the thing we are going to be called as a dumbbell shape or I section. The idea was that once if the any head is overwrought or it is going to be during its surfaces it has been worn out, the rail is going to be inverted and it is going to be reused. Say for example, suppose if this section is going to be worn out, so we can make it as the bottom portion and we can reverse it and we can make it as an top portion, that is going to be reversal to make it as use both the head for the purpose. So, that is a dumbbell shape. So, this is going to be based on the experience showed that bottom table of the radii was dented, so that the extent of because of long and continuous contact with the chairs. So, hence the reuse is not going to be possible. It means moving to this same image. So, I will clear. Okay. So, as we know that the rail sections are going to be placed over the sleeper. So, due to the fixtures it is been provided. So, due to the constant movement of the wheel load, so these sections are going to be worn out. So, in this portion, so hence it is not going to be providing the true head when it is going to be reversed. So, that is with respect to double headed section has been concerned. Moving on to the next type of a rail. So, this type of rail is going to be called as a bullhead. So, the drawback of double head is going to be led to the development of the next type. So, that is going to be called as a bullheaded rail. so which had an almost similar to shape, that is a symmetrical one. It can better withstand the wear and tear. This rail section had major drawback that chairs are required for fixing it to the sleepers. So as we know that in this section, so the chairs are going to be required to fix up on the sleeper. So because of this thing, so the sleepers requires chairs to fix over the sleeper. So that is with respect to bull-headed. Moving on to the next type, it is going to be called as a flat-footed. So as the name itself indicates, the foot is going to be little bit longer. So it is going to be called Vignole rail. So this section is going to be called as an inverted T type. So it is going to be fixed directly over the sleeper, which helps of spike. So with the help of a spike, directly we can fix it over the sleeper with a spike. So another advantage of this flat-footed rail is that it is more economical for the designing, as it gives greater strength and lateral stability to the track as compared to the bull-headed of a rail for a given cross section. The flat foot rail, that is FF rail, has been standardized for the adoption with respect to Indian Railways has been concerned. Moving on to the selection of a rail. So we learned there will be different types of rails. So depending upon the geometry, we classified it. So how do you going to select the rail section for a permanent way? So there are some key points. So whatever the rail section we are going to be chosen, so it should resist the heavy axle load which is coming over to the the axle load. So and also the nature of traffic. Nature of traffic means it may be of different tonnage vehicles or cargo or the passenger or whatever the nature of traffic we have been having it. So rail section should be resist the heaviest load which is going to be come on it. So next is going to be the maximal permissible speed. So whatever the speed it is been allowed in terms of kilometer per hour, the rail should resist it, it should not lose it. So next, it depends upon the depth of a cushion, that is a ballast cushion we have been providing it. So next is the gauge of the track, so which gauge we have been using it. So it is going to be narrow, meter gauge or the broad gauge. So that is a type of gauge we have been using it. So next is the type and spacing of a sleeper. So what exactly the distance between the two sleepers we have been providing it, and which type of sleepers we have been using it. So it may be a wooden, steel, or it may be pre-stressed one. So like that, which type of sleepers we have been using it. So depending upon that one, the sleepers is going to be selected. So last point is going to be miscellaneous factor. So those miscellaneous factors we are going to be discussed one by one. So moving on to the next thing, that is a comparison of rails. So in the previous slide I shown the flat-footed rail, bull-headed and double-headed. So we are going to be comparing with few characteristics. The first one is going to be the strength and stiffness. So we are going to be first talk about the strength and stiffness factor for the rail section. So in the flat-footed rail, so usually we are going to be write it as a F and F, and bull-headed rails as a BH and double-headed rails as a DH. So we are going to be comparing with respect to these three. So first parameter is the strength and stiffness. In the flat-footed, these will have more strength and stiffness for the same weight, which are going to be both laterally and vertically it is going to be stable. So as compared to flat-footed, both double-head and bull-head rails are going to be lesser in strength and stiffness. Next parameter is laying and relaying. So as we know that laying, that is a first time if you are going to be fixing over the sleeper, it is going to be called as laying, and if it is going to be used for maintenance part and if it is going to be relayed, then the flat-footed rail, the fittings of the rails are so simple. so it can be easily laid and relaid, so no chairs are required. So that is the speciality of flat footed rail. So whereas in case of bull headed rail and a double headed rail, the fittings are going to be necessary to fix the rail, so it is going to be difficult in time consuming, and also maintenance is going to be required. Next is the arrangement at the points and crossing at shop course. So as the fixing is easier, so arrangements are going to be simpler, but whereas in case of bull head or the double head, it is going to be complicated. Moving on to the next parameter, alignment and stability of the track. So flat footed rail, so in this impact of a rolling wheel, it will affect the fittings, and it will lose the fittings and disturb the alignment. So as it is going to be giving less stability, whereas these rails, that is bull headed or a double headed rails, which are fixed over the chairs, hence it is going to be more solid, okay, and it will provide a smooth track, and it is going to provide better alignment. So due to a broad base of a chair and wooden keys, the pressure is distributed over a larger area, and hence rails can be used over the wooden sleeper. So that is a advantage as compared to the flat footed rails. Next parameter is going to be the initial cast. So the rails requires that is the flat footed rails requires cheaper fastening, so that cost is less. So whereas the bull headed rail and double headed rail will going to be requiring costly, because the chairs are required, accordingly the fastenings are going to be required. Moving on to the next parameter, that is the rigidity. So the flat footed rails can be used without having any bearing plates on the sleepers, so these rails are stronger as they are. So moving on to the bull head and double head, the rails without chairs can be used on the inferior type of a sleeper, so which is going to be a strong as far as the vertical loads are concerned. So these are few of the comparisons that we can make out with respect to different types of rails sections. So next thing is going to be the inspection. So daily inspection is not required, so no special risk is there as compared to the FF, that is a flat footed. So in case of bull head and a double head rail, daily inspection is required because of a wooden key, a replacement of a rail. So in case of flat footed rail, the dark spikes have to be taken out in addition to fish bolts and fish plates to change the rail. So the replacement is somewhat difficult, whereas the bull headed rail, it is going to be easily, we can change it by driving out the keys and taking out the fish float and fish plate without disturbing sleeper. So that is the advantage with respect to flat footed. Next is with respect to the maintenance cost. So the maintenance cost is going to be lesser because it's going to give a firm base, whereas in case of bull head and double headed rail, so it requires heavy maintenance because inferior sleepers, because of repeated wheel load, maintenance cost is going to be higher. And next is going to be the suitability. So for better stability point and stiffness point or the strength point, flat footed rails are good, but bull headed and double headed rails are going to be more suitable when lateral loads are more important rather compared to the vertical load. So these are having some advantages and disadvantages over the one or the other as we compared it. So next is going to be the length of a rail. So we talked about different types of a rail functions and a requirement. So what would be the optimal length of a single rail which are going to be taken for the construction? So these are all the few factors we are concerned while we taking the length parameter of any type of a rail. So the length of a rail is going to be so chosen that when the length of a rail is going to be so chosen that the manufacturing cost is going to be reasonable. So whatever the manufacturing cost we are going to be concerned to produce a 1 meter of a rail section, so it should be optimal. Hence we should try to concentrate on what exactly the reasonable cost of per meter length of a rail we are going to be using for construction. It also depends upon the transportation facility. So what type of facilities we are going to be providing over a network. So it means facility with respect to the wagons and the bogies we are being available over the sections or in the network. To some extent the length of rail is also limited by facilities of lifting and handling. So that is going to be laying or a relaying or a maintenance part. So that's what length is also going to be important, and also during that is the loading and unloading of the wagon. So from the wagon how we are going to be using it. So from that point of also the length of rail is going to be decided. More the length of the rail, more will be the gap required for the expansion. So that is going to be called as the gap which is being provided as in the form of expansion. So that is thermal stresses it is going to be, or the temperature stresses it is going to be induced. So from that point, so we have to provide a gap in between the two rail section. So looking at all these above parameter, the Indian Railway has the standard length from the different types of gauges has been concerned. Say for example, if it is going to be a broad gauge, it is going to be 42 feet or it is going to be 12.8 meter. So for calculations we are going to be concerned 13 meters, whereas in case of meter gauge, so 39 feet or it is going to be 11.89 meters. For calculation we can use 12 meter for the calculation purposes. So this is with respect to length of rails has been concerned. So for the references we had make use the same textbooks, so as we are referred for the previous sessions also. So and also for the web references. Thank you.